from the hill we have in the town looking down at the harbour, and I come from Gisborne. And the other name for my hometown is Turanginui Akiwa. That's the native Maori language. Okay, so it's a lot, very summary there, as opposed to where I am at the moment, which is Malaysia. Okay, so that's actually a picture of my school. So I am teaching chemistry and physics at Marlborough College in Malaysia, which is in Asia. Okay, there's a wonderful flag there. And at the moment, we're in the rainy season. So today I went to work. I thought I'd be nice and healthy, and I'd go and run. Getting there, it was fine. And then as soon as I finished my lesson, I was running back, and then it was very, very rainy. In fact, it's still raining outside. Okay, so enough about that. Let's just focus on the SDGs. Okay, so the SDGs actually come from the 11 millennial goals that we had in the year 2000. Okay, so we thought, well, in the year 2000, we need to change the world for the better. So we developed 11 ideas that by 2015, we had to meet. Now, obviously it's 2020. So at 2015, we thought, well, we haven't quite got where we wanted to go. So what we'll do is we'll actually focus on 17 goals that we should acquire by 2030. Okay, and this was all run by the United Nations. Okay, so the 17 SDGs, which you will become familiar with, are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice and strong institutions, and then 17 partnerships for the goals. Now, even though they are ranked from 1 to 17, they are all equal in importance, and they all connect with each other. So even though you might be looking at reduced inequalities, SDG 10, you could also be focusing on quality education to reduce those inequalities. Okay, so they're all interconnected. So over the course of the next few weeks and months, you will learn about these SDGs in a lot more detail, but that's just a basic summary of the 17 that we are focusing on by 2030 that we'll all achieve. Okay, and just to finish off, because I don't want to talk too much, I'm always told I talk too much anyway, the one that I am passionate about is SDG number 4, quality education. Okay, so this is the reason why I am standing in front of my computer at 3 in the afternoon in Malaysia, talking to you guys. Because one of the most powerful ways we can change the world is to become educated. Okay, so it's amazing that you're in the classroom learning this information, because then you can make the change and lead the ideas around the 17 SDGs. You can be the change makers in your community, and you can start making a difference. Because usually at school, you're told, oh, well, you're too young, you don't understand the problems the world has. You do know the problems, okay? You can make a difference, you can make that change. And the way we can do that is through first, quality education. Okay, so that's probably enough me talking. So any questions from you guys around the SDGs at the moment? Even though you've just been introduced to them, obviously. Very shy. I don't write, usually. So any questions from you guys? Kikuma and Pugu?
Pugu, no question.
No questions? Okay, well, questions are very good. There's no such thing as a silly question. Just remember that. That's how you learn, by asking questions. Okay. That's fine, okay. Okay, so maybe if you see the other presentations, you might be thinking, because it takes time to think about ideas, before you start asking questions. So maybe if you watch the other presentations, you might have some questions for us at the end. You'll get less shy.
Okay, great. So we will go to Silvana. Thank you, Mike.
No worries.
Well, I'm Silvana Carnicero from Argentina in South America. The yellow country you see in the map is my country. It's in the very south of the continent. Well, that's my flag that has the colors of the sky. This is my school. It's called Mother of Mercy. It is a religious school, that's why it has a church. It is located in Buenos Aires. I have been teaching there for over 20 years, mainly in the secondary school. And in fact, that has been my primary school too. Well, Michael has already introduced the Sustainable Development Goals to you. We were supposed to be achieving them from 2015 to 2030. So we still have 10 years to go. Well, he has already mentioned all of them. So I would like to say that these goals have been created for us to achieve a better and a more sustainable future for all of us and for our future generations. So these goals call you to dream big, to set goals, and to take action. You will be able to take local action, thinking of how you can apply these goals into your community. And if you take local action, that action will become global because all of us will enjoy the benefits of working for a more sustainable future. So I would like you to start thinking which of these goals that Michael has mentioned and that we're going to revise, you can see as problems in your local community for you to start thinking how you can find solutions. Then I will share with you some of the things I have been doing at my school with my students for you to start thinking what things you can do. So, for example, to solve goal number 1, no poverty. Well, one of the things we can do is to donate or to encourage people to donate the things they don't use any longer. Then goal number 2 is zero hunger. Well, some of the things we can do is to waste less food and to support people who provide people with food, such as local farmers, for example. There are many campaigns in different parts of the world to collect food. In fact, for example, next week in my country, there is a campaign that takes place every year to collect food for people in need. So that's a way of avoiding hunger. Then goal number 3 has to do with having good health and a well-being, general well-being. So one of the things we can do is to vaccinate people to prevent them from being ill. Then goal number 4, that is the goal that Michael put the focus on, is related to quality education. That's why we are all here, to help teachers in different parts of the world educate their population. Then goal number 5 has to do with gender equality. Well, the differences we have between men and women in sports, in occupations, at the moment of studying. So one of the things we can do is to empower women to have the same benefits as men have in different positions. Goal number 6 has to do with clean water and sanitation. So one of the things we can do is to avoid wasting water. Then we have affordable and clean energy. So one of the things we can do is to save energy. The simplest thing we can do is to switch off lights when we don't need them, because there are many people who don't have access to energy. Goal 8 has to do with decent work and economic growth, something we are suffering a lot from, mainly during this pandemic. So one of the things we can do is to create job opportunities for youth. And as Michael said before, the goals are very related and highly connected one with the other. So, well, through quality education, you can get better job opportunities, and that's a way of working for goal number 8. In fact, this goal is also connected with industry and innovation, because there you can have different posts and different vacancies for you to work there. Number 10 has to do with reduced inequalities, and not only gender inequalities, as we mentioned in goal number 5, but different kinds of inequalities for people with disabilities, for people who are in disadvantaged situations. Then we can move on to goal 11, and for example, one of the suggestions is to use bikes, to walk, to use public transportation. Goal number 12 has to do with consumption, and well, recycling paper, recycling plastic, recycling glass are different solutions we can put into practice to work for this goal. Then you have goal 13, goal 14, and goal 15 are very much connected because they are related to the environment. Goal 13 is related to climate action, goal 14, life below water, and goal 15, life on land. Then goal 16 has to do with human rights, with defending our rights, and goal 17 is the combination of all of them. So, for example, one of the things I did at my school was to ask students to choose an environmental problem they would like to work with, and then they started studying causes and consequences of these environmental problems, because if you don't know the causes and consequences, it's very difficult for you to think of the possible solutions. So my student had to create videos in relation to these problems they have chosen. And then this is one of the videos they created for a project we work with that was called No More Plastic. And at the very beginning of this year, we started working with NGOs, non-governmental organizations, that focused on different SDGs. So students had to choose the SDG they wanted to work on, and according to that, they looked for a foundation that was working with this SDG, and they had to prepare for them an advertising campaign to get more people to help them work for those goals. Well, this is more or less what I would like to share with you. And I don't know if you have any idea of which goal you would like to start working with, or which problems can you detect in your community mainly? So have you got any idea of what goal you would like to work with and why? Or can you detect any problem related to any of these goals in your community? I think they are starting to think about.
Yes, thinking takes time.
Well, I guess perhaps they will have time to talk to one another and to start thinking in groups what to do for their communities.
Yeah, sure.
I think we need to give them some time as well so that their teacher is able to repeat some parts.
Just to process all the information they are receiving.
Yeah.
You know,
Very,
they are
very
getting,
interesting work, Silvana, very interesting.
Thanks.
yeah, they are real happy to see you on the screen, and they are really enjoying the lesson. Now they need like to digest what you have been talking in a Swahili language, so that everybody can be aware on what actually are they supposed to do right now.
I think we have one student in Pugu though.
My name is Hassan. My question says that why air pollution in their country is that which many people does no perpendicular.
Okay, his question is, he wanted to work on air pollution, and his concern is the goal number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting question because it's one of the issues I have as a New Zealander living in Malaysia. So in Western countries, we pride ourselves on the idea that we recycle plastic, but that's not quite true. So countries like Australia, New Zealand, and England, they do not recycle plastic. What they do is they send it to other countries to process. And it just so happens one of those countries is Malaysia. Now, sometimes the companies that take the recycled plastic don't do a very good job. And one thing that they do is they just burn the plastics. So one thing we have to develop is a sustainable way to deal with plastics, because if you burn the plastics, what happens is the fumes, the gases get into the atmosphere and they can cause problems, especially for those who are very close to the factories. It hurts their lungs and makes it difficult for them to breathe. So it's important that our industries and the way our economies develop is sustainable, because the way we're doing it at the moment is not sustainable. So that's actually an interesting question you've asked from my perspective of a New Zealander actually living in Malaysia.
Well, here in Argentina, we have problem with air pollution and with water pollution because of industries, because there is a lot of leather industry and all the waste is thrown into the rivers. So many of these factories have been forbidden or they have been asked to create different plants to cure the liquids they throw into the water in order to prevent the rivers from being contaminated even more than they are.
Hello?
So that's why it's very different to separate one goal from the other, because you get most of them affected.
Okay, another question. Okay.
How can we bring about gender equality in family level?
The
Didn't
question
quite
was,
get you.
how
Yep.
can we bring equality? Sorry.
Gender
Ooh, gender equality. Ooh.
family level.
In family? I didn't understand the last part, sorry.
Okay, his question is, how can we bring gender equality in the family level?
At a family level.
Well, here in nowadays, we are seeing on television, for example, many commercials that are changing the typical family formation, for example. We see fathers being in charge of bringing up children, fathers cooking at home, women are being shown in different occupations that used to be typical for men. And even, for example, some days ago, we had Children's Day. And well, some years ago, everything was either pink or blue. And presents were very specific. Now there is a tendency when you go shopping that you can see the packaging of toys respecting this idea of gender equality. So, for example, in the package of a cook, you can see a man cooking instead of a girl cooking. Or you see a doctor and you see a female doctor instead of a male doctor. So little by little, things are changing.
I also think that in terms of African countries, we may also think that bringing education to girls is also a way of letting those inequalities go down by the drain, you know. Because if girls are educated at the same level as boys, then we will have gender equality. So we will have educated girls that can also be doctors or lawyers or teachers. And also we will have educated boys who will understand the role of women in family life as well. So here it's SDG 4 that is also connected to that SDG. So gender equality and education, they are just binded together, you know. You cannot think of them separately.
Well,
Yes,
for example, the school I am working, at, well, it used to be a school only for boys. Many years ago, it became a co-educational school. And now there are also some rules, for example, trying to achieve gender equality. For example, the gym class used to be boys at one time and girls at a different timetable. Now, at least once a week, they have to have gym classes all together, boys and girls. But 2 years ago, it was quite different. Boys on one side and girls on the other.
So I just have to agree with Enos's comments around the interrelationship between all the SDGs. So one of the biggest determinants of strong economic growth in a country is the education of girls. The case in point that I always use is Bangladesh. So in 1950, the average number of children in a family was about 6.5. And now, 40 years later, well, now 60 years later, the average, the average number of children in a family now in Bangladesh is about 2.5. So by empowering girls through education, it gives them further options. And those further options can mean that they can contribute more effectively to the economy. And that means that the economic growth rates increase in those countries. So it just illustrates that the SDGs do not stand alone, that they are all very much interconnected together and do not have a hierarchy. One SDG is not more important than the other. They are all equally important and they all interrelate.
True.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, I think we will shift to Ines and then
Okay.
we will have more questions.
I guess there are people putting up their hands in one of the
Oh, yeah?
in Kigoma.
Okay.
I can see a boy over there.
Oh, yes, yes, in the front. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Why do we need gender equality?
Ooh.
Whoa.
Ladies.
Ines, it was your part, right?
Yeah, I started talking about that. So just a simple answer. I'm going to answer it simply in a simple way. So we are all born equal. We are all born equal, boys and girls, men and women. So every right is either for boys or girls. Every boy or girl have the same right to education, the same right to health education, to the same right to go to school, to have a job, and to look after their families. So there has to be gender education so that societies can be balanced as well, okay? So I know that in some countries this doesn't happen. So there are girls who are not going to school, that's why I mentioned it, namely in African countries as well. Usually there are different roles. So women have a role and the father has another role. But bringing those roles together, making them understand the role of one another is very important, because then they can raise their children in equality terms, okay? So yeah, it's very important. It's a very difficult question, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess going back to my previous answer, in order for everyone to contribute to society, there has to be a level of equality between everybody. Yeah.
I also believe that if there is gender equality, there relationships can be healthier, family relationships can be healthier. Now in my country, there is a great violence. There are many girls being killed by husbands, by boyfriends. So there are many victims, young girls who die because of violent relationships.
Mm.
I don't know if there's any more question, or if I can just do my presentation and then go to another round of questions, perhaps.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there is another question here in Kigoma.
Okay.
How can I bring quality education to my society?
How can there be quality education in society? It begins with you, actually. It begins with you knowing that there should be equality in education, because you are now young, you are learning, but you are going to grow as citizens and you are going to rule the country in some way. So if you grow with that sense that there should be equality in education, so every school, every class should have boys and girls, then you know that in a couple of years, that won't be an issue anymore. You know, because you will be educated and you will be doing good things for your community, and you will be including everyone in your community. So this is very important what we're doing today, explaining to you what SDGs really are, and that you can work on them today, from today on, so that you can grow, apply them, and do action. And remember that there is no such thing as a small action. You know, every action counts. You know, if you do an action, a good action, and then another school does another one, so that begins like a wave of change, and that's what we need for you.
And I think you should also consider that education is an ongoing process, and that you should never stop learning. So that's a way of making education grow.
Yes, always maintain your curiosity and always question people. Yeah, so questions are very good. So yeah, quality education. Basically, if you have a quality education, you make quality choices. And that doesn't just work for you, it also works for the society that you're in as well, because then your society is making good choices for the present and also for the future.
I have a question here in Pugu. What are the indicators of quality education?
I didn't understand the question, sorry.
What are the indicators of quality education?
What are? That's an interesting question.
Okay, our question is girls number 4, quality education. So she just wants to know the indicators. How could you say this is the quality education?
I think we understood the question, but it is that tough that we don't know the right answer yet. So we are a bit speechless, but we totally understood the question.
So what is quality education, essentially?
Yeah.
How would you measure it? I guess for me, since I'm also teaching ethics at the moment, it's about consequences. So if other societal measures improve, it does illustrate that there is now a measure of quality in the education system. So as health outcomes improve, for example, as crime outcomes improve in a society, as there's reduced pollution, that would illustrate that the education system is effectively teaching those problems and how to solve them. So I would see those consequences as a sign of a good education or a quality education.
I think quality education includes a balance between content and related to academic subjects plus values that can be put into practice in society.
Yeah, you're
meaningful
teaching,
learning for students.
Yeah. And again, it's a lifelong process as well. So embedding that a value in students that you never stop learning, that you're always learning and improving. Yeah. Eunice isn't taking this one.
It's a tough crowd. It's a very difficult answer there, because I think that everyone is still handling that kind of question today, and studies are being made for that. But I think that in a couple of years, when you begin, after you begin teaching and doing actions and projects to achieve that goal, I think in a couple of years you will see the difference that it will make in your schools. and in your communities. And I think only then you will realize the impact of those actions and those projects. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. I think one of the schools, okay.
Yeah, they're back. Okay, Ines, I think you can go ahead, and
Okay.
I'm sure that we will have questions
Okay.
after. Yeah.
I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it now? Yep.
Yeah.
So my name is Inês. I'm a teacher in Portugal. I live here. This is my city. This is Porto. Quite sunny every year, every day of the year. I teach in a secondary school. I teach students from the 12 that are 12 years old until they are about 18. So from the 7th till the 12th grade. And every year what I do to work with the SDGs, I challenge my students to think about solutions for real problems. That's actually what you are going to do in the next couple of years. So I'm going to bring you my experience of working with my students around these themes and give you some examples of things that you can think about within your community. So, of course, that problems are very different from country to country. In Portugal, we have very good life conditions, which it doesn't happen in other countries. So I asked my students to think about projects, to think about solutions that could be applied anywhere in the world. And that could also be made with materials that could be found everywhere. So the challenge was to come up with a solution for a real problem. The solution had to be affordable, so communities could build that solution quite easily and affordably. And also it should be made with materials that can exist in any country. So one of the projects my students focus on, one of the SDGs, was actually the goal number 7. So to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. And they thought about this SDG, namely for African countries actually, because in Africa you have a source of energy that is quite intense, which is the solar energy. So they decided to build a solution that could bring light to communities who don't have light like we do. Okay, so there are many villages in Africa who simply don't have any light. So what they thought about doing around this, after studying the conditions of the countries and the communities, after studying the weather conditions, after studying all the materials available, they decided to start building prototypes. These are my students working. They decided to build a prototype of a solar bulb. So this solar bulb here is actually a bottle of water. So they decided to first take from the streets a waste, which is bottle of water, plastic, and with that bottle of water produce a solar lamp. So first, so this is reusing bottles of water to produce solar lamps. I'm going to show you. So first what we did, they made manuals, they did prototypes, and then we partnered with an NGO. So partnerships are also very important so that the SDGs can be implemented in anywhere in the world. And then, for example, this is a bottle of water. It's 40 watts of energy in an African country. This is Guinea-Bissau, actually, which is quite good. This is another one. So a quite simple solution with a material that can be found anywhere, you know, and we could bring light to small villages, like the ones that you see here, which is probably something that you will find in your country as well. So what we actually do, we provide training. So the students come up with manuals. They do the step-by-step manual of the solutions so that they can be replicable. So we give the manuals to people in other countries, and then these people, these communities can replicate according to their needs. So this is a really, really simple solution. And also, let me just, oh, sorry. Okay. This year, the challenge that my students were working this year, I don't know why, okay, was the night solution. So this year they thought, why can't we, from that one, which is only a bottle of water, why can't we do the night solution as well? So they come up with a simple circuit that stores energy during the day and frees energy to a LED lamp during the night, so that, you know, communities can have light also during the night. So this project is also implemented in Guinea-Bissau and is actually being monitored because we want to know exactly how long the LED lamp lasts in Africa. This sort of bottle, the bottles of water, lasts for 4 to 5 years on a rooftop. That we have already measured because we have implemented the first one in 2014. This one we have implemented in more or less in December 2019. So we are still monitoring that one. Just to tell you that, although we focus here on goal 7, we actually we're also focusing on other SDGs. So first, quality education, by bringing this solution and by educating people on how to do it, we can bring light to schools. You can have light in your houses and you can study longer, for example. We can reduce inequalities. For example, you can have, if you have electricity or light, you can have your inequalities reduced. And also we are here working for sustainable cities and communities by using a natural resource such as the sun, which costs nothing, you know. So the only thing that people should do is create the prototype and then the sun does the rest. So what you need to be focusing right now, and that is your job now, is to focus on problems, on real problems that your communities have, and focus not on big solutions. You can think small, you know, you can think of small things because small things can also make a huge impact. So think of problems that your community has and how you can work to reduce that problem or simply to end that problem in a way that can be replicable and that you can bring that knowledge to other schools and that other schools can also replicate, okay? Because as I said before, you know, you are doing a project now which can be also implemented in other schools. It can be seen as an example for other schools, and then it begins a wave of change, you know, by working all together towards the same SDG and the same problem, okay? So I'm finishing my presentation here, but this is only one of the problems that we, I don't know if I can you stop my presentation, Cohen? I'm sorry. Ah, here, it's here. Thank you.
Yes.
This is one example, but my students are working with plastic problems for everything is in Africa because we have partnered with an NGO. I'm part of that NGO right now. We go to Africa every year and we take the solutions to Africa and teach them how to solve these problems locally in small communities. So we don't think big, we don't think in great cities, we think small in small villages, small communities, small solutions, but that can make a huge difference in people's lives. Okay.
Oh, I'm impressed.
Okay, thank you.
So we hope that those kind of solutions will inspire you for to do the same, basically. Is there any question?
Yes, in Kigoma there is a question.
Okay.
How can we avoid poverty in our communities?
How can we avoid poverty in communities? Well, I think it will actually depend on how the community works because every community is different from one another. So the answer will be different from one another. But I think that the community, by working together towards the same goals, by being organized socially as well, can work together to prevent some of the things that you suffer there. So if you work together in a community garden, for example, or if you work towards having a better water quality on a river or on a well, if you work together if you find these kinds of problems and work together to solve them, that will help you not end poverty because we are quite far from that, but at least reduce poverty in your communities.
I guess poverty is all related to economics and economics related to the education. So it's again, the interrelated nature of the SDGs. So if your population becomes educated, they develop new skills. They can go into different careers, which have maybe more income. So again, it just illustrates over and over again how the SDGs are all interconnected.
Yes, if we think of the SDG related to creating job opportunities, well, in fact, that would be a source of employment to reduce poverty.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, in Kigoma.
How can we maintain clean energy?
How can we maintain clean energy? So as I said, Africa and Tanzania has one of the biggest sources of clean energy, which is the sun. So you will only need to think about how you can take advantage of that resource for you and to improve your life. So this is actually a very nice project for you because you are there and you can actually make a difference by building projects around that clean energy.
Yes, because go for it.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm passionate about energy and clean energy projects. I'm an English teacher. I'm not an engineer or anything else, but I'm passionate about it. And I spend so much time in workshops learning from my students as well as they are building their prototypes. But we have made solar dehydrators so that we can take advantage of fruit and not waste fruit, for example, to prevent food waste. We have made solar ovens so that girls can avoid going to forests to collect woods, so that they can be more time at school and not doing that sort of job. So there are lots of things that you can do with solar energy. You just have to look around you, your community, your house, your own house, and think about, how can the sun help me? You know, that's something for you to think about.
I'm just going to say, you actually are an advantage in being in Tanzania, because you don't have necessarily a very complicated infrastructure in terms of energy. And that's actually going to be an advantage in the upcoming years, because all those big Western countries like the US and the UK, they're going to have to make this massive transition into different forms of energy, and they're going to have to change their infrastructures completely. Whereas you're actually at an advantage, you're at the cutting edge, and you can make those changes right now. So that's actually an advantage that you have over the big Western countries.
Last question. How long does the boat ramp last?
Sorry, what was the question?
Little part.
How long does the boat ramp last?
How long does plastic last? I think it was that. Well, plastic, a bottle of plastic usually takes about 450 years to decompose. 450 years, which is a really, really long time. That's why we need to think about the single-use plastic that we use every day, and if we actually need to use it. Okay, so in developed countries, in Portugal, we are campaigning in schools right now to ban every plastic from every school. So students use plastic bottles of water, not anymore. For example, they bring their own bottles, either of glass or aluminium from home, for example. There are no plastic forks or knives, not anymore. No plastic glasses as well in schools. So this is a way for us to prevent a single use of plastic in schools and some communities. Because as I said, 450 years is a long time. We are talking about 9 to 10 generations, you know. And if we start doing it right now, we can also prevent a quite huge disaster that is happening. So this is SDG 14, you know, life at seas. This is SDG 13 as well, climate change. So this has to be worked not only by developed countries, and we are the worst, I think we are the worst, but also in developing countries, so that they do not make the same mistake as we do, you know?
Well, in fact, I am living in a developing country, and some measures have been taken recently. For example, shopping centers cannot give customers shopping bags, plastic shopping bags. You have to take your own shopping bag when you go to a supermarket, made of cloth, or if not, they give you boxes made of cardboard with the idea of avoiding plastic. And there are some rules in some shops to avoid giving plastic glasses or plastic cutlery too.
I think in the beginning someone was talking about burning plastic and the fumes of plastic, etc. For example, one of the projects we are working in a school is towards what can we do to plastic. So here in Portugal, we have very good facilities, very good waste management facilities. But what can we do there in African countries where these waste facilities, waste management is not a reality? And I'm talking, for example, about Guinea-Bissau or Mozambique. It's two countries where we are implementing things. And they simply don't have, they have dump sites. Everything goes to a dump site and is burned. and everything around is pollution. So every crop is polluted, is contaminated. Animals are feeding from this garbage, and the meat is contaminated. So what can we do? And we are actually starting to make an awareness with these communities to collect plastic and to transform it, not to burn it, but to transform it, to shred it and transform it in new objects. So we are making lamps, we are making cups, we are making tiles, and now we are actually starting to make bricks out of plastic. So we are starting to try to, but this is difficult. This awareness is really difficult in some countries. But people are starting to see that there is more life to it than just burning plastic, okay? But yeah, and schools are places that we need to focus first.
At the school where I work, there is a continuous campaign on collecting bottle caps, plastic bottle caps. So they sell them, and with that, well, they collect money for the school. And on the other hand, new things are made out of that plastic.
Exactly.
Even toys for children, even tables, chairs are made out of that recycled plastic.
Yeah, we're doing the same actually at our school. We're recycling lots of milk bottle plastic as well. So we're making different kind of objects with them as well. We've got a wonderful plastic emulsion gun, which we just create new plastic objects with, which the students are creating designs with for digital technology and design technology. But the most effective way, I guess, would be not to use the plastics. Yeah, but then that's also very much linked to water quality, because I know in Tanzania from last year, the issue of water quality is a big thing. So again, it's keep on harping on, but it's the interrelationship. So if you don't have clean water, then you're going to be using bottled water. And if you're using bottled water, you'll be using plastics. So again, it's the interconnection.
Okay, we have a question here in
Another question here in Choma.
How can I use a bottle lamp when it is night? How can I use a bottle lamp when it is at night?
Can we use a bottle to light at night?
Yeah, good question.
That was the question. Yeah, so the bottle of water is at night is only used with a small circuit, an electrical circuit, and a small size solar panel. So the solar panel stores energy to a battery, to the circuit, and then it releases during the night. So for example, during the day, it stores the energy, and then it has an autonomy for about 8 hours in the evening, okay? And it also has a sensor. This system has a sensor that when it starts to be dark, the LED lamp will light automatically, you know, whenever it's dark. So you don't need to switch on or switch off. If you want, you can, but you don't need that. But you need a circuit. So what we do, we teach teachers and also students from secondary schools and professional schools in Africa to build that so that they can replicate, okay? But you can use a simple bottle of water just to light your home during the day. You can do that without a circuit. I can prepare something for you if you want, and I can give it to you so that you can try.
You're not really an expert on this kind of stuff.
Another question.
What things have mentality of people?
Why are we using
Did you get the question?
Why are we using plastic bottles?
Yeah, Lord.
Why, that's what Michael was saying. If you have clean water around you, you don't need plastic bottles of water. You know, you just drink from the water that you have. But if you do not have it, if you do not have clean water or drinkable water around you, then you need to carry your bottle of water with you if you go to school, if you go to work. You know, yeah, that's a huge question. First, we need to start thinking about how we can bring to you clean water. How can you have clean water so that we can start reducing the use of plastic at schools and in your community? Many things for you to think about.
Thank you.
Welcome.
In many cases, it's even a change of habits that families have to start going through. I remember when we took part in the project No More Plastic, one of the things we did with the students was to conduct surveys to see how much plastic people use in families. And well, students realized that they use much more than they thought about.
Okay, we have that question in Pugu. Yeah.
What things help to maintain peace of people?
So
Who
what was
understood the question? Yeah.
I didn't understand the question. Very little.
What was the question again?
The question is, what help to maintain peace to people?
Peace.
Okay.
Another big question.
Yeah.
And also it's very pertinent because in 9 days time. Yes, 9 days time, International Peace Day.
Mm.
There we go. Peace, education. There you go.
True.
Equality to avoid differences, to avoid violence.
Yeah, I think peace, justice is linked directly to education and to the reduction of inequalities, for sure. And that is something that schools need to work from quite an early age, so that children can grow. You can grow in your school as well, being educated not to do the mistakes that some people generations ago did and are still doing. Yeah, we need to learn from our mistakes, for sure.
I guess also it's a sustainable use of resources, because a major form of conflict also is the battle for resources.
True.
So that's another thing we have to look at. If our economies become sustainable, then there's no shortages of particular resources, so there's no need to fight over those resources.
Another question, Kigoma.
Why aren't we allowed to pollute water sources? Why aren't we allowed to pollute water sources?
The pollution in water sources.
Okay, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's something that happens, I think, in every country. We also have it here in Portugal, the pollution of the rivers. And I think that has to do, here in Portugal, has to do with industries. So industries are not managing their waste quite well, and waste is being dumped in rivers. So I think that what countries and communities need to think about is a solution for some sort of waste, so that they can stop being dumped in water sources. Because this is a snowball, you know. If we don't have clean water, We have to use plastic bottles of water. Animals don't have water to drink or drink contaminated water, which provokes meat to be contaminated, and then we get sick because we eat that contaminated meat. Not Michael, because he's a vegetarian.
No, it's not why. It's actually linked to this question. Yes.
You know, but I think that first of all, we need to think why are our rivers polluted, and then think about what can we do to stop that source of pollution.
Yes, and that's where my vegetarian conversation comes in. So the reason why I'm a vegetarian is actually due to the fact that it's not sustainable, that we're all meat eaters. So my home country, New Zealand, I went back one summer, and I'm quite an avid hiker. So I was hiking around the Canterbury region, and a lot of the waterways there are heavily polluted. And the reason they're heavily polluted is they're full of a chemical called nitrates. And those nitrates come from a lot of cows going to the toilet in the water. Mm-hmm. So if we continue with high levels of meat consumption, for example, we need to have lots of animals. Those animals make waste, and they can therefore pollute the waterways. So again, it's all about sustainability, and it's all linked. So sustainable food management that will lead to more sustainable waterways and less pollution in the waterways. And it just all, I'm talking about water, so it all flows from that. Yeah.
What should we do to avoid bad usage of energy?
Bad uses of energy.
Bad uses of energy.
So it's pretty,
I think it will first depend on the source of energy that you are talking about. You know.
See, I'm a physics teacher, so nuclear energy, I quite actually enjoy the use of nuclear energy, but that's a conversation for another time. But I think it's not necessarily the bad use of energy, it's the fact that we don't consider how much energy we use. And I think that's more a complaint for countries like New Zealand and Portugal, because we're first world countries and we waste energy. So it's not sustainable. So it's about developing more sustainable approaches to energy consumption as well. Yeah. And again, this is the advantage of being in Tanzania.
Developing countries, we also waste energy.
Yeah.
And now there are some projects to make people change the kind of light bulbs they use to make a better use of energy. But well, in fact, these new light bulbs are really expensive in comparison to the others. So some people cannot afford them. That's why they cannot be replaced.
Mm. Yeah, hopefully we have some budding economists actually in our 2 classrooms, because our economic model has to change in terms of the way we approach consumption.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Well, in fact, economy crosses the line of many of these problems we are talking about.
Yeah.
Because, for example, in the case of polluting rivers, companies or industries don't want to spend money on safer ways of dumping waste, for example.
Well, I guess that's again the economics, because it's not seen as a big word. It's not seen as a bad thing to dump. Yeah. So pollution isn't seen as a bad thing for these companies. So it's So we need to change the way we approach pollution, and seeing it as a problem, not something that can be done without any consequence.
True. Also, it's a government issue in every country. Here in Portugal, we are a sunny country, so we have lots of projects on solar energy and wind energy, and now we are starting on wave energy as well. Yeah. So actually, for example, in 2019, we were sustainable for lots of days. So we were able to produce our own energy without wasting any resources. and we are working towards that goal. However, of course, there are countries that do not have the same conditions, weather conditions as we do, and others who have those conditions, but do not have the political, either the political will or the money to do that, or the knowledge, you know, and others have the knowledge, and it's simple a political question. So I think it starts there, government issues. Also in terms of consumption, it's something that we need to address in schools as well. So we need to teach or to bring awareness to schools on how we are consuming those sources of energy. If we are turning off our lights, if we are, or not, if we are using too much of our air conditioning or not, you know, so it's something that needs to be addressed. And I think students also need to think about that economically, because they do not know, or they don't think about the cost of energy. And I think that is a big issue right now. They need to think how much it really costs to bring energy to our homes. And that's something that we are starting doing here in Portugal to address financial questions to students from an early age.
Yeah, I hooked up a bicycle to a toaster to see if any of my students could actually toast some white bread. No, no one can do it. Too much energy. Any more questions? They're all questioned out.
In Kigoma,
which way can be used to make equal balance between energy and climate change?
Energy and climate change. What was
it was energy and climate change, balance between energy and climate change, was that it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, climate change is a huge issue. It's not only about energy, it's about everything. It's about wildlife. It's about pollution. I think climate change integrates with most of the SDGs that we see here. So when we think about climate change, and if you are going to address climate change locally in your school or in your community, you need to first start thinking about what are we doing that is contributing to this climate emergency that we are living right now. Is it energy? Is it pollution? What is it? You know, and by thinking about what you are doing locally, you can start addressing the issues and start, for example, a project towards the reduction of that problem. Okay, so I think in terms of climate change, we need to think more broadly than only focusing on energy. I don't know if you agree, Michael.
Well,
Silva.
definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, economy also crosses this point. There are many places here in my country that are now on fire, as it is happening in US too, because, well, many forests are being cut down to sell the land, to build houses, to make buildings. Well, and that's causing climate change too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, the link. Yeah, it's just not just about energy consumption. There are so many other aspects around climate change. Again, it's the economic model. We need to kind of change the way we look at the environment as something not external to us, but actually something we need to live in. Without an environment, there is no economy. So we need to protect that environment.
Yeah.
That's actually very difficult though for developing countries, because developing countries need to, it's in the name, they need to develop. And that does require use of energy. So I find it very difficult to ask those countries to make those sacrifices when they haven't really contributed to the problem. So that's something we have to address also as first world countries, on how we need to look at our model of economy and how it's actually changing the world.
Yeah, for example, I've seen in Guinea-Bissau, the Chinese going to Guinea-Bissau and just cutting down trees in an enormous amount of land. So by cutting those trees down, this means that they are provoking desertification. So there is shortage of water in that place. So and this is something that governments should address as well. It's an economic issue, as you said, but we need to think about that. It's not only taking down some trees from there, you know, it's that will have consequences for agriculture. It will have consequences for the way people live, because they won't have water or have shortage of water to live with. And with desertification, people are homeless, and our unemployment starts growing. So it's a huge thing. So a small thing has to cut down trees can provoke many other things around that place. So yeah, it's something that we need to think. I usually ask students, and I'm asking you too there in Tanzania, to think about this small thing. So what this small action that we are witnessing here locally can provoke, what are the consequences, and how can we avoid it? So that's the sort of issue you need to think about.
How can we focus the problem of electricity energy?
The focus of electricity. I think again, it will depend on the country and on the community. I don't know how you live. I would like to know, for example, I would like you to tell me how is energy in your country, in your community where you are right now. So do you have energy? I can see that you have, but how is it in your homes? Do you have energy in your homes? What sort of energy do you have? Can you tell me? Oh, they are shy. Because I need to answer you, I need to have more information.
Amen.
They're muted.
They are thinking.
They are thinking. Okay, I could not get them. But energy is an interesting one, because we say, well, we can go to wind power or solar power, as you're doing in Portugal. But then what makes the solar panels? They're made of plastic. Where does plastic come from? Where do those rare earth metals come from that are needed for the circuits? Mm-hmm. So it's more complex.
They are thinking about how to answer on energy.
Solar energy.
That's actually a curiosity of mine, because I know many African countries, and now I know how they lived, and I'm very curious about how you live there, and what sort of energy do you have in your communities? If you have energy, you probably do. I'm not asking Cohen because he knows. I'm asking you, come on.
Good guess.
Solar energy.
Where do you get your electricity from? Yeah.
At home, we are using solar energy.
Solar? Okay.
Or you have solar panels in your houses?
Yes.
And can you tell me more or less how much a solar panel costs there? Or you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. So every house has a solar panel?
No.
Not every house, okay. So, but you have in your house. So what do you use it for? For lights? Do you have a stove? Do you have a refrigerator or not?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Very nice. So your panel is quite strong. It's quite capable. Okay, that. For example, you have a sustainable house. You live in a sustainable house. Okay, you have a solar panel, and you feed your house and the energy from your house directly from the sun, which is quite nice, and it's a clean energy, and it's also affordable. So you don't have to pay energy to companies like we do here in developing countries.
In fact, you could give the excess energy to your neighbor and make some money.
Oh, yeah. Do you do that, Michael, there?
No, just there's some groups in Sri Lanka and India to do that. So rather than having an external power source, basically the village has solar panels, and then they just basically store it in the battery and give it to the next village, and the next village buys it. So kind of making energy production local rather than outside the village.
There's a waste management company 2 kilometers from me. They produce energy from trash. They collect waste from 1 million houses around here, and they do energy from trash. And then they are sustainable. All the enterprise is sustainable. And they also give energy to the houses around them. So it's a very sustainable system that I have here around me. They don't give me energy though, but okay. But we have a partnership with them in one of the waste management projects that we are conducting. And they are quite on top of the game in this sort of thing. So this is a quite nice experience that some countries could also experience doing.
Have you seen the documentary 2040, Australian director?
No, 2040.
2040. So basically, it's a father who's discussing how his daughter's existing in 2040, and he's going through. So he's going through different case studies around the world where they're actually making sustainable energy, and so that was one of the examples. Was a village in India.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. It's about changing the economic framework. Don't have economics before. Anyway.
So now we want to give the students in Kigoma and Pugu some time to think, because we want you to come with an issue, a global issue you want to focus on, or a local issue. So maybe you're really interested in clean water. Maybe you're really interested in poverty, gender equality, peace. I think we covered a lot of SDGs today. And normally we always go from local to global, but today we will go from global to local, because I think we heard about a lot of solutions, but those may be really focused on Portugal or Argentina or Malaysia or Tanzania. But today we want you in Pugu and in Kigoma to think about something, what you think you may be able to solve or something like that. And we really hope that you will have a small interaction between the two labs as well. So you can ask questions to each other as well. You can ask information from each other as well. You may even work together. So we really hope that we planted a small seed, and I'm really grateful for the really good questions. When we were not able to hear them, it was because of technology, because of a weak signal or something like that, not because of you. But I think some questions were really tough. I'm happy that we had like Ines, Michael, and Silvana, because it would have taken me like 2 hours to even have like a small answer. But you know, We really hope that you always will have the urge to keep learning, you know, because education is crucial. And that is also the reason why we decided to come up with those labs, to make sure that you don't memorize a definition about climate change, but that you try to find a solution for it. I think that Ines demonstrated a lot of really interesting solutions today. I'm really curious about hearing more about those. Maybe going to replace my light bulbs. So thank you so much, everybody, for being part of this. I think this was a really fruitful session from my side. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more from the students in Kikoma and Pugu. Thank you so much. So I will leave Ines and Michael and Silvana just like a half a minute for some final words, and then we will leave the session so that the students in Kikoma and Pugu can work together. Michael.
Okay, I'm just going to go for a cliche. So there we go. So you are the change makers. So be the change that you want to see in the world.
Silvana.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing the class with us, for listening to us, and for asking so many interesting questions. And we hope you got to know a little bit of the SDGs, and you can start thinking what you can do in your community for your actions to have local and global impact. Thanks.
Ines?
Yeah, so thank you for all your tough questions and your curiosity as well. It was very interesting, some of the questions that you made us today. I think that now today you need to really focus locally, as Cohen said. So you need to focus on what problems does my community have and how can I address them. So you probably have lots of things that you have never thought about. So one very good exercise that you can do is just walk around your community and observe and then write some notes down, because observation is one of the basic things of research. And sometimes we don't do that a lot. So if you go outside and just observe what you have around you and think about the issues that are around them, so you can start thinking about problems and how to address those problems. So I wish you luck. I'm very curious to know what your issues will be about. And I wish I can help you further with that as well.
Thank you.
Benson, do you want to share something? We can't hear.
He doesn't have a microphone.
We're not able to hear you.
No.
It's muted.
Yeah, now it's muted.
I think he has microphone issues.
Yeah, I think there's something. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. I will make everybody a co-host in all of the labs. This will take a few minutes, but okay. I'm not the host anymore. I'm messing up.
Technology.
Technology.
Cohen?
Yes, hello. Hello.
Sorry. My laptop was somehow having some problem on connection issues. Yeah, but I'm happy for the class today, and I'm really appreciate the good work that the teachers have shown us. I'm just asking God to bless you all for this kind of a good work we have been doing today. I'm really happy to see my young brothers and sisters from Kitwe and Kigoma together learning different ideas on these sustainable development goals. So I really appreciate it, and I'm really thankful. Well done to all the classes for participating today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and see you next time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Colin.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.